So today we're going to go through some official rulings and questions, I guess questions and answers you should say, for the Disney Lorcana game. And finally, Ravensburger has released something official. It's always been Twitter, like responses, DMs, things like that. But now it's officially been put into the official Lorcana app. You can open up the app, go to the cards, scroll down, and if it has more information, it should have some sort of question and answer there. And what I did was look through all 204 cards so you don't have to, and talk about them. Now, I did not include some of the erratas and some of the duplicate stuff. So if it didn't seem like it was worth talking about again, or if you really didn't need to, then I'm just going to skip it. All right, first up is going to be Moana. And she does pretty cool things with her ability in questing, and you can ready other princesses. The FAQ says, if Moana quests, can I choose which princesses I ready? If I have princesses already readied, or if I ready them with other effects later in that turn, can they quest that turn? If you choose to use her effect, basically you have to ready all of them. If you quest with her, no other princesses for the turn can quest, regardless if you want to choose to ready with them or if they already readied later in that turn, which is very important for sequencing and just in general, right? That kind of takes precedent, right? That means if something is worded where if this character quests, the other princesses can't do that. So think about it. If we have another card in the future, if we said, if this does one thing, then other things can't do it. I'd imagine unless something supersedes that or goes over that effect, or if we get another FAQ that says something different. That's pretty big. That's pretty important to know. Again, not really only for sequencings, but for effects for the future. Next up in Amber is going to be Stich. FAQs basically says, if you have multiple copies of the Stich in play, can I use his ability multiple turns on the same character? And it basically says no. So the ability, Adoring Fans, requires you to exert newly played characters in order to draw a card. Multiple instances of the ability won't allow you to draw extra cards because you won't be able to exert them. So it makes sense, right? If you play it, you have to exert it unless you restand it in like in red or something, or ruby. I don't think you should be able to do that. So there you go. I mean, unless it has like rush or something like that. I don't know. What it really means is that if you have multiple Stiches, it doesn't really matter unless you just want them out just to have protection. And say if you have Stich in play and a 3 cost in hand, if I use Lantern to pay 1 less for that character, can I then insert it to draw a card? And it's not the character of the cost of the character play as reduced of the Lantern or by Lantern. This is the amount that you have to pay. New character's cost would still be 3. It's just when we qualified for fan of Stich, to be a fan of Stich. Just interesting how they order that. So basically what this is saying is that it's targeting the amount or the play amount. So let's say if Stich said, hey, it's 6 to play this, you have to pay 6. Lantern makes that a 5. No matter what, you're paying 5 to play it. However, the printed cost on it does not change, which means Stich is looking for a printed cost of 2 or less. So it makes sense. This one I can't really argue. Next up is Be Our Guest in Ursula's Shells necklace. It's basically about costs, where if my character with a cost of or higher than 2 sings with Be Our Guest. So if you had like one of Stitch's boys or girls, whatever, you sing with Be Our Guest to look at the top 4. While I have Ursula's Shells necklace in play, can I apply the extra to pay the 1 cost in order to use Ursula's shell necklace to draw a card? And the answer is no. The ink to use Ursula's shell necklace must be paid independently from the cost of paying the song. Or playing the song, sorry. So what this means is that in order to... So basically what I can understand from this is that these are 2 just separate things. So you have to pay 2 and an additional 1 in this case in order to draw a card. So Ursula, I guess, is not that great then, right? Because I mean, when you play a song is different from when you sing a song. I think that's what the understanding is. So that's kind of a bummer. All right, next up is Baby Elsa. And this says, say if I have an Elsa in play and I chose to ready a character for Anna, Heir to Arendelle's ability, Loving Heart. Oh my god. If that chosen character is later exerted in that turn, will they stay exerted during the start of the next turn? And yes, the chosen character will stay exerted by Anna's effect. I don't have it here, but Anna says when you play this character, you have a character named Elsa in play, you choose an opposing character. The chosen character doesn't ready at the start of the next turn. What it's basically saying is that no matter what, as long as it's exerted, you can't restand or unexert the following turn. So even if you choose something that is readied, you can then choose it to exert an opposing character with Elsa, and then you can get the Anna effect. That's pretty much what it is. Here's one more on timing. This is with Dr. Facilier. When more than one effect happens at the same time, what order do they resolve? If multiple effects of yours happen at the same time, you choose the order they occur in, which is pretty normal. That's what I'm used to in Bandai games, and as well as just Dragon Ball in general. So, you know, then resolve those effects in that order. After that, each other player reserves the effects in their turn, stating with the player on your left, which again, there's like multiplayer, so that makes sense. If you have Dr. Facilier, the agent, the 7 costs here, and you play Grammatella, Storyteller, and Challenge and Banish, you choose whether the Grammatella card to your hand or you put it into Inkwell. So you can return it back with Dr. Facilier's effect, or you can put it in your Inkwell. More often than not, you want it in Inkwell, but I guess it's just circumstantial, depending on what the game state is. Good to know that you can choose the order that basically any of the effects resolved. So what we call turn player choose the order of the effects, and then the next player, which I guess on the left, your opponent, or you're just your opponent if it's just 2v2 or 1v1, I should say, it goes to your opponent. There you go. Other part of it is that if I control a Dr. Facilier, and one of our Floodborn characters whose shift ability was played on top of another card is balanced and challenged, do all the cards in the stack go back to my hand? And the answer is no. So if you because the stack of cards all go to the discard first and then become separate cards, only the top card of the stack goes back to your hand, which makes sense. I think a lot of us have been playing that all of the stack goes into the Inkwell, all the stack goes to the drop, all the stack whatever, right? And I think this is interesting to know, because I probably need a little confirmation if, like, let's say if you play Hades, do both shifted characters, all the stack go into your Inkwell as well. So that is good to know. So probably that is the precedent, of course, or the standard that we're going to go for in the future. Next one, another Dr. Facilier. If I play the action Friends on the other side while I have Dr. Facilier, Remarkable Gentleman, in play, will I draw the 2 cards from my deck before resolving Dreamspeed Real ability? Dr. Facilier's effect will not occur until after you fully resolve the text on the Friend on the other side. So the Friends on the other side let you draw, and then Dr. Facilier says whenever you play a song, you may look at the top 2 of your deck, put one on the top of your deck, and then the other at the bottom. So you can't really, I guess that's kind of lame. Also, it's interesting. I guess you have to play. Again, this doesn't clarify. I guess the other question does clarify it, where if you sing with Friends on the other side, do you get this effect? I don't think you do, because it says play. If you have to pay the 3 to play the song in order to get that Dreams Made Real effect. So kind of a bummer again, right? That's kind of a silly thing to do. But I guess it maybe is a little bit of balancing thing for the future. But again, you have to draw the 2 cards and then look at the top 2. So I don't really agree with this one, because I feel like Dr. Facilier would be better if it wasn't that, right? Yeah, kind of silly. Plus, I guess those are like 2 different effects too, right? So kind of contradicting of the previous question where we're saying turn player resolve effects, and you choose which effects to resolve first. So let me know what you think about that. That's pretty whack, right? Moving on. So Elsa, Spirit of Winter, ability is to exert 2 characters. Can you choose? Can those characters be ready by effect or whatever, such as Fans of Flames on their next turn? And characters with the ability by Elsa can be ready by Fans of Flames and solo ability. So there's a few obviously that allow you to do that in Ruby. So Elsa basically is ignored by Fan of Flames and stuff like that. I think that's pretty straightforward. It has nothing to do with the start of the turn. You can just use the Fan the Flames effect or whatever in order to ready it. Yeah. Mickey Mouse. So another cost question. If I have 2 copies of Mickey Mouse in play, will my magic brooms cost 1 less or 2 less? The magic brooms will cost 2 less, which is basically free because magic broom is just 2. We might have more magic rooms in the future, so maybe they'll have like a shift or whatever. I think most of those are Dreamborn, so maybe not. For each copy of Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer. So Wayward Sorcerer. Say that 5 times fast. So if you have like 2 or 3 of these, obviously 3 is probably redundant and probably a lot more than you need, but definitely 2 of them, you get to play brooms for free, and they come back to your hand, which is pretty whack. Cool effect. Just a lot of the time it just doesn't stay on the board, which is probably why you don't see it too often. I will say again, another standard precedent where we're saying hopefully it's going to be consistent that things stack. So if we're saying that things stack and effects stack, that's good to know. Marshmallow, I think we've solved this one in Twitter. Marshmallow says when this character is banished in a challenge, you may return this character to your hand. And the question is, are abilities on characters that occur when they're banished in challenge considered to happen during the challenge? Abilities on characters that occur when they are banished in a challenge happen during that challenge. Example, Marshmallow. This guy has ability that reads, same thing I just said. You return this card to your hand. And Facilier Cat says, there is ability that reads when this character is challenged, balance to the challenging character. If a player challenges and banishes Facilier Cat with Marshmallow, the Facilier Cat would banish Marshmallow during the challenge, allowing the challenging player to return Marshmallow back to their hand. That one's interesting. Hopefully people don't really get that confused. I guess it's just like Marshmallow says when it's banished in a challenge, which I guess it is just a challenge, right? You can challenge the Facilier Cat, right? And that is a challenge. It doesn't matter if it wins or not. Like, even if the Facilier Cat goes, you can just return Marshmallow back to the hand. Kind of a whack card, though, because it's 6. So I don't think you really need to worry about that one. Queen, which is probably my favorite art. I love this art. I don't know why, but I love the colors and all that. And she obviously says you can just draw a card. Very strong. Very good. 4/5, right? If you freeze, if I use freeze and then choose to exert my opponent's the queen, will this queen's exert ability allow me to draw a card? This should be obvious. No. All right. It has a cost to use the ability, which needs to exert itself. And it says additionally, you won't be able to use the ability until it's readied. So pretty straightforward. Belle, the expensive one. If have multiple copies of Belle, Strange, can you apply the effect of her read a book ability multiplies in a turn. Each copy of Belle can only apply her ability once per turn. So if you have 2 Belles, you can play 2 extra cards into your Inkwell. So basically, with the 1 Inkwell that you do per turn, you have 3 in total with 2 Belles. And when you use the ability, can you place any card into the Inkwell? It doesn't have to have the Inkwell icon. The read the book ability only allows to place another card into your Inkwell. It doesn't override other rules nor processes to add to the Inkwell. This card must have the Inkwell icon, and you must show to all players before placing an Inkwell. Which, let's take a look at Quill. Hopefully this is the next one. Maybe not. It's Mickey, but this one's important too. Another Inkwell question where if a card on the top of the deck is put in my Inkwell by like Mickey. Can I check that card before it goes face down? And no, cards put in the Inkwell from any location. The card's information isn't known, such as the top of the deck, can't be looked at either player, which is, I got to tell you, probably the dumbest thing. I'm sorry, Ravensburger. I'm sorry, Disney. But it is the dumbest thing. It is your card. It is your information. There is no like downside to this. It just only helps the player, which again, it's fair because both players can play the card, so why not? But yeah, easily the dumbest thing. Easily probably the only thing I really don't agree with, not being able to see the cards that put into Inkwell. All right, next is develop your brain. So what happens if the card tells me to perform an action I can't do anything in that it turns? If a card says to perform an action, do as much as you can to fulfill the requirements. It's not applied to actions that are part of the cost. So development brain says look at the top 2 and then put one on the hand and one on the bottom. If you only have 1 card in your deck, you look at that card and then put in your hand. Which, I mean, you're getting milled out, so I guess you have bigger problems than this. Next one is Fishbone Quill. So this is the one I was talking about. If ability of the Fishbone Quill to put a card in your hand in an Inkwell should I show the opponent the card I choose. And no, the ability lets you put any card into Inkwell, regardless if it has an Inkwell icon or not. You don't show the cards to the opponents. This is a weird distinction, right? It's a very weird distinction with Inkwell. Saying that like with Belle and as well as your normal Inkwell, you have to show it. And then with the cards anywhere outside of a known area, you can't look at it. No one can look at it. And then here, your opponent doesn't look at it, but you know it because you're choosing it, and also doesn't need an Inkwell icon. Obviously, with the text of putting any card into from your hand into the Inkwell face down, explains it a little bit, but still kind of silly, kind of a weird one, huh? Except it's steal stuff. So Simba's Rightful Heir. If I banish a shifted Footborn card in a challenge, while I have a card that lets me gain 1 lore. When I banish a character, how much lore do I gain? No matter how many cards are shifted in the character stack, they still count as a single character. So the only top card is considered banished for the purpose of the effect. So even if you have 2 or 3 shifted on top, whatever, because you can shift on top of like regular ones and get the effects, or the same card even if it's shifted. You only get that 1 lore, so you don't get 3 lore if it's like 3 in a stack, which would be pretty cool. And the last one is A Whole New World, my favorite card. Each player discards their hand and draws 7. What happens if A Whole New World is played and all players have fewer than 7 cards left in their deck, which can happen in a mill deck, right? The active player resolves first, so that player would lose the game. So if you're playing A Whole New World, have 8 in your deck, because apparently you lose if you don't. All right, so that was it. A lot of questions, a lot of answers, a lot of stuff that in general is good to know. I will put the chapters in the description as well, so you can follow along. So hopefully you've been doing that already. I'm sure you've been skipping through. If not, I appreciate you watching. And if you need any more of this content, or if you have anything in general, like gameplay, any ideas, let me know in the comments below. You guys are very quiet, and I don't like that. But I'll see you in the next one.